Hello everybody, my name is Billy and I really like Marvel, so much so that I decided to start making videos about it. Now, when I really say Marvel, I mostly am talking about the MCU. I do still like Marvel content outside of the MCU, like the old Spider-Man movies and the old X-Men movies, and I like a lot of the video games, like Spider-Man game, the Avengers game I still really enjoy. I'm really excited for the Wolverine game too. I haven't really gotten into the comics themselves. I know a lot about the comic events just from osmosis, and the only ones that I've actually read are the current Daredevil run, which by the way is really good. In fact, the only Marvel movie that I really hate is probably just 2003's Hulk. Actually, probably throw Spirit of Vengeance in there too. I did not care for that movie. But the MCU is just the pinnacle of Marvel to me. It's the giant interconnected universe they created with tons of overlying plot threads and fun Easter eggs. But how big is the MCU? The answer to that question kind of depends on how much of it actually counts as canon. If you don't know what canon is a heading that all works fit under. So in this case, the heading being the MCU or Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everything that falls under it being the movies, the Disney Plus shows, other TV shows, and even comic books that tie into it. That does mean that not every movie with a Marvel character is canon. For instance, 2003's Hulk is not canon, but the 2008 Incredible Hulk is canon because it was made to be set within the world of the MCU, whereas 2003's Hulk was made before the MCU even started. So let's get started with clarifying what is 100% genuine, grade A, pure MCU canon. There are 25 films so far that have been released by Marvel Studios, which is the studio that makes MCU content. They are Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The First Avenger, The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Eternals. Whew! And of course, we also have the Disney Plus shows being WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and Hawkeye, which is currently still airing new episodes. There are also some short films called one-shots that they used to release in the bonus features on Blu-rays. These are Agent Carter, the one-shot, not to be confused with the TV show that we'll get into later, The Consultant, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer, Item 47, and All Hail the King. And also Peter's To-Do List. That last one isn't officially a one-shot, but it kind of acts the same way as a one-shot. There's also a series of promotional material called WHIH Newsfront, which was meant to promote both Captain America Civil War and Ant-Man. They have Christine Everhart from the first two Iron Man movies, and they kind of just are meant to be in-universe news broadcasts. In addition to those, we also have official tie-in comics. Usually these are preludes that go into the next movie that's about to come out. They're meant to promote it. Sometimes they go over and recap previous movies before going into a sequel, or sometimes they go ahead and give you a completely original story that happens before the movie. Like in some of these cases, they give you more information about the world. Like, for instance, in the Black Panther prelude, we find out that T'Challa has been the Black Panther since about a week before Iron Man announced himself as Iron Man. Or in a tie-in comic that's not even a prelude to anything, it was just released, we find out that War Machine was actually busy during the events of the Avengers. He was off in the Middle East fighting some kind of battle going on with terrorists in his War Machine armor. There's actually quite a few of them, so I'm going to go ahead and drop a link down below to the Wikipedia article that goes over a lot of the stuff that goes on in these comics. Oh, and there's also this book called the Wakanda Files that it's supposed to be like Shuri's notes. It's like a notebook that Shuri made. It even has like a little, what it's called again? Kimono beads, I think. That's what they're called, right? Yes. It has a little blacklight in it, and so you can uncover hidden messages in this book. And it's really cool. It has a lot of information about technology and some of the characters and some of the vehicles and stuff that's in the MCU, so it's a fun read. Now that might seem like a lot, because it is. Okay, so you might have noticed a wardrobe change, and you might notice a slight difference in the audio quality or levels or whatever. While I was editing this video, I realized that the audio for this segment did not get recorded for whatever reason, so I'm having to re-record that, so great. So by the end of the video, I'll be back in the black shirt, so just bear with me. Anyway, as I was saying, that seems like a lot, because it is. But just looking at everything I listed might not really let you know how long it would take to watch everything. So I took the liberty of tallying up the runtime of everything I've listed before down to the second. Well, not in Eternals' case, because I don't have access to that movie, so I don't know exactly how long it is in terms of seconds, so that's just calculated down to the minute, but more or less, it's not going to make that big of a difference. If you just wanted to watch the movies, you'd be looking at 12 hours, 30 minutes, and 51 seconds for Phase 1, 12 hours, 46 minutes, and 53 seconds for Phase 2, a whopping 1 day, 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 54 seconds for Phase 3, and all the movies in Phase 4 so far add up to 7 hours, 6 minutes, and 40 seconds. Altogether, that adds up to 2 days, 9 hours, 37 minutes, and 18 seconds. Now let's throw together all the Disney Plus shows. WandaVision has 9 episodes, Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier both have 6, What If has 9, and Hawkeye currently has 3. That's just short of a day's worth of Disney Plus content with 23 hours, 25 minutes, and 54 seconds. While we're at it, let's just toss in all those other small things by Marvel Studios, the one-shots, the WHIH stuff, and the Daily Bugle stuff. Combined, that's an extra hour and 18 minutes and 22 seconds. Add all that together and you've got yourself 3 days, 10 hours, 21 minutes, and 34 seconds. Now mind you, this is not taking into account all the time for sleep you would need to watch everything. This is running straight everything from beginning to end, and including all the end credits, so you might lose some time if you take those out. There's also those tie-in comics I mentioned previously, but I can't really give a solid runtime on comics because it really depends on your reading level. So that's it, 25 movies, 5 TV shows, a handful of shorts and one-shots, and a stack of comics. Well, yes. But actually no, there's actually a lot more to dive into. Everything I've listed above is just stuff that's been put out by Marvel Studios, but Marvel Studios aren't the only ones who have ever put out MCU content. Back in 2012, Marvel announced that they would start making TV shows set within the world of the MCU. These TV shows will be produced by a separate division called Marvel Television, which was headed by Jeff Loeb, instead of Marvel Studios, which was headed by Kevin Feige. They didn't exactly have the best communication between each other. Marvel Television often would reference stuff that happened in the movies, but the movies would never really reference anything that happened in the TV shows, and no characters ever went from television to studios, with the exception of one character from Agent Carter. All these shows were promoted with the tagline, "It's all connected," meaning that it's all connected, it's supposed to be set within that universe. Back to what I was saying about Agent Carter, that one character that came over is Edwin Jarvis, and the main reason for that is because Agent Carter was the only one of those Marvel Television shows to be produced by Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige wanted a slight hand in that show because it was a character that was from the movie division that he wanted to have a little more control over because he knew that she was going to be popping up more and more in the movies later on. But that's the only one out of 12 shows that Kevin Feige was involved in. The rest of those shows being Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Inhumans, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, The Punisher, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, and Hellstrom. Hellstrom is in a bit of a tricky spot because its showrunner actually did say that it wasn't tied into the MCU, but the way he worded it was a little bit confusing because he could have meant that, oh, it's set in the universe, but it's not tied in with anything that's going on. There's no references going on to the bigger universe, but it's still in that universe. I lean towards that option just because when the show was announced, it was going to be tied in with another show for Ghost Rider, who was going to be the Ghost Rider from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so that was going to be directly tied into that part of the MCU. So I think even though the Ghost Rider show got canceled, the idea of it being connected still kind of rings true, so I'm still including it with this. Now, I can already hear a lot of you running down to the comments, Kevin Feige decanonized those shows. Those shows don't count. WandaVision was the first MCU show. And I know where a lot of you are getting this idea. It was a quote that was given by Kevin Feige at, I think, a Brazilian Comic-Con. First off, he never directly said that those shows aren't canon. He said, and I quote, "And it all for the first time will interlink, so the MCU will be on your TV screen and at home on Disney Plus and interconnect with the movies and go back and forth. It's exciting to expand the MCU into even bigger and better heights." See, that doesn't exactly decanonize the rest of the shows because what WandaVision is doing for the first time doesn't discredit what the other shows did because the other shows never interlinked with the movies. They were always a one-way street. They never gave back anything to the movies to do. Whereas the Disney Plus shows are meant to tie right back into the movies with those characters that first appear in the movies, go to TV, back into the movies. Never happened with Marvel Television, so it doesn't really decanonize them. Now, I truly believe that he made the statement purposely kind of vague so that people who were fans of the shows can still hang on to like a linger of hope that they still count, even if he's never going to acknowledge them or revive them or anything, just so that those fans of the shows aren't disappointed, because he is aware that those shows have a very big fan base and a lot of them who love the shows and want to see those characters continued. Again, I'm not Kevin Feige. I don't know if that's exactly what he meant, but here's hoping. Save Daredevil. I mean, come on. Plus, there are a few rumors that some characters are about to make the trip from television to studios. Those characters being Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Kingpin is rumored to show up in the Disney Plus Hawkeye show, which we actually think we might have seen a bit of him in the third episode. There's a figure that grabbed Little Echo's cheek, and we think that might have been Kingpin. We still haven't seen his face, but fingers crossed. and the other character being Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, who is rumored to show up in Spider-Man No Way Home. Speaking of Spider-Man No Way Home, as many of you might have seen from the trailers, we're getting some interdimensional villains. We have Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Sandman returning from the Sam Raimi trilogy, as well as Electro and Lizard from the Mark Webb duology. And if you've seen the Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credit scene, you know that Eddie and Venom have been transported into the MCU. So all three of those extra Sony universes are now merged into the MCU via the multiverse. So I think if we can accept the Sony movies being a part of the MCU via the multiverse, then I think we can accept the old Marvel television shows as at least being canon to an alternate split timeline, if not still part of the main MCU, because those shows were at least meant to be set in the MCU, whereas the other properties weren't, and they just got brought in via the multiverse retroactively. These shows are by default closer to being canon than the Sony movies. So that brings our total up to 33 movies, 16 shows, a handful of shorts, and a stack of comics. Now let's go ahead and add those to our total runtime. Starting with the Sony movies, we've got Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Venom, and Venom Let There Be Carnage. Altogether, that adds 14 hours, 35 minutes, and 1 second to our total runtime. Keeping in mind, I also don't have access to Venom Let There Be Carnage, so that's also counted just down to the minute and not to the second. Add that with our previous total, and we now have 4 days, 56 minutes, and 35 seconds. Okay, now to Marvel Television. There were 3 shows released by ABC under the Marvel Television umbrella, those being Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and Inhumans. Inhumans ran for 1 season with 10 episodes, Agent Carter ran for 2 seasons with 18 episodes, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ran for a whopping 7 seasons with a massive 123 episodes. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by itself will run you 4 days, 53 minutes, and 4 seconds. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by itself runs just about as long as our previous grand total. Oh, and I also just remembered Slingshot, which was like a mini web series spin-off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It ran for 6 episodes, tallying up to 27 minutes and 35 seconds. Watching everything from ABC will take you 4 days, 20 hours, 6 minutes, and 29 seconds, bringing the grand total up to 8 days, 21 hours, 3 minutes, and 4 seconds. That's just over a week of Marvel, and we're still not done. Now on to Netflix, the gritty, dark, TVMA corner of the MCU. We have Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, and The Punisher. Daredevil and Jessica Jones both ran for 3 seasons with 39 episodes each. Luke Cage and The Punisher both ran for 2 seasons with 26 episodes each. Iron Fist also ran for 2 seasons but only had 23 episodes. Defenders had 1 season with 8 episodes. Altogether, that's 6 days, 6 minutes, and 5 seconds worth of Netflix binging. Add that to our total, and now we're up to 14 days, 21 hours, 9 minutes, and 9 seconds. Now let's hop on over to Netflix's green cousin for Hulu. We've got Runaways, which ran for 33 episodes across 3 seasons, Hellstrom, which had 1 season with 10 episodes, and we're also going to include Cloak and Dagger here, which had 2 seasons with 20 episodes. The reason I'm including Cloak and Dagger in this segment, even though it aired originally on Freeform, is that it has found its home on Hulu, and it directly tied into Runaways. All of that teen angst and demon hunting will run you another 2 days, 1 hour and 57 seconds, assuming you sprung the extra $6 in order to get Hulu with no ads. Add that to our grand total, and we're now sitting at 16 days, 22 hours, 10 minutes, and 6 seconds. The last things to add are just some random clips, like elevator footage from a Defenders teaser. There's a Midtown High news broadcast that's entertaining. There's like advertisements for Colleen Wing's karate school. All that just adds a tiny bit, bringing the final grand total, until they start adding more stuff, up to 16 days, 22 hours, 14 minutes, and 5 seconds. Over half a month of MCU content. If you started right now, by the time you finished, there would be more MCU content to watch. Once you finished, Spider-Man No Way Home would be out. But it's not realistic to sit and watch all of this in one sitting. I mean, you would die from lack of sleep. So let's set up a scenario. You want to watch everything in the MCU as fast as possible, but you still want to give yourself enough time to sleep, eat, use the restroom, call your mom to let her know you're still alive. In this scenario, you will have 8 hours a day to sleep, 14 hours to watch Marvel, and 2 extra hours to do everything else you need to do. It would take you 29 days to get through the whole thing. A proverbial Marvel month. Which is exactly what I'm going to do when Avengers 5 comes out. Well, kind of. See, we don't actually have an official announcement for Avengers 5 yet, but we all know that it is coming. And when it comes out, I'm going to marathon everything in the MCU leading up to it. But not as extreme as this. I'm only going to be watching 6 days a week, and I'm only going to be watching for about 12 hours a day. Also considering that by the time Avengers 5 comes out, there's going to be a lot more MCU content. There's going to be a lot more to go into this, which means it's probably going to take me at least a month and a half, if not more, to get through all of this. And of course, I'm not going to want to spend a month and a half straight just sitting on the couch, so I'm going to be on the treadmill the entire time. Walking, of course. I don't think I could spend 12 hours a day running. I don't even think I could spend 12 hours a day walking, but we're gonna see how far I get. So that's how big the MCU currently is, and it's only gonna keep getting bigger. I mean, just in the rest of the month, we're getting the last 3 episodes of Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home. And within the next few years, we're getting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, The Marvels, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Fantastic Four, Blade, and Captain America 4, as well as Disney Plus shows Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, Armor Wars, Ironheart, Echo, Agatha House of Harkness, Marvel Zombies, Spider-Man Freshman Year, and as of yet, Untitled Wakanda series, I Am Groot, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and second seasons for Loki and What If. That's how much is coming down in the pipeline, and yet we still have one more thing I need to mention, which brings up a whole nother area of complications, being Deadpool 3. See, we know Deadpool 3 is coming out, and it has been announced it is going to be set in the MCU, but we don't know exactly how connected it's going to be to the first 2 movies. Deadpool could, of course, come from the Fox X-Men universe, which would add all those movies in the same way that the Sony movies are being added in via the multiverse. But Deadpool is also a unique character in the sense that he is self-aware. He's aware that he's a character in a movie, so you could reboot him and have him be aware that he's a reboot and have that add to his comedy. So since we don't know exactly how he's being tied into the MCU, I'm not right now including all those previous X-Men movies. Also, I've just done way too much math at this point that I want to be done, so... Anyway, guys, that's how big the MCU currently is. How much of it have you seen? Are you going to go and try and watch everything in one sitting? Because please don't. You will die. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, go ahead and like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. All of that will be linked down below. All of the artwork you've seen in this video have come from the poster database, which I'm going to link all the creators and all the artists who did these posters down below as well. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.